presentation, and I'll obviously, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat, or if you want to come off mute, we've got another person joining. That's great. If you want to come off mute and ask a question, that's fine. That's not if you stay on mute, then that will keep the recording nice and clear. Oh, got a couple more. Just let them in. Fab. So let me get set up and do this. Oh, I haven't introduced myself. Oh, I've got a slide for that. It's okay. Right, fab. So let's pop that on then. And let's just share my screen. Okay, fantastic. So I keep my eye on the chat. If you've got any questions, just pop them in there or raise your hand on Teams, and I'll happily take any questions. So the session today is, I ran this last week for East Coast College. It went down really quite well, so we decided to repeat it so that it could be open to a more broader audience. And really the session is looking at using OneNote and Flipgrid for maths and English. Now, I actually have thrown an extra freebie in there as well. So really the session outline is going to show you what OneNote is for those that don't know. We're going to look at what Flipgrid is, how you can get started with that particular tool for maths and English. And I'm also going to cover a little bit about Office 365 forms. So if anyone was in Heather's session the other day, they would have seen things about forms in there, and probably some of the examples that I'm using in this one. But really, it's kind of about looking at how they all work together as well, and so how you can use these tools to create a really interesting and engaging learning experience. There's going to be a bit of a presentation at the start, so I'm going to run through everything that I'm going to cover, and then I'm going to go into a demo and actually show you the things and show you how they're set up. So have lots of opportunities for questions, and if at any point I go too quickly or you want me to cover something in a bit more detail, do please just ask. So what is OneNote? OneNote, really, for those that have never used OneNote, is a digital notebook. It's one of my absolute favourite tools. I use it as a personal OneNote notebook. I use it in work. We use it as part of our staff development. So we have an actual class notebook set up with about 500-600 staff in it, and they're all working on their level up programs as well. You can create class notebooks with students or staff notebooks, which is what a manager would create. And they're kind of just different types of OneNotes, really, with different permissions. So a notebook is made up of sections and pages. I like to describe it as a lever arch folder, you know, with those little colourful section dividers and with all the pages in between. And that's really what OneNote is like. And you can add a whole range of different media to OneNote. So it isn't just a notebook. It allows you to embed videos in there. And it's got a whole range of tools actually in the application to support maths English. And one of the greatest features of using OneNote is it's got the Immersive Reader built into it. So if you've got text on a page, any learner can then use Immersive Reader to have it read out to them, or just to use a different colour background or font size. So it's actually a really, really versatile tool. We've got loads of examples of different areas at our organisation that are using OneNote. I'm happy to tell you about the different ways that we're using it. But I'll just move on for now. So some of them I've probably mentioned just then. Maths in OneNote with digital linking. Don't worry if you haven't got digital link and touchscreen, you can still use the maths features in OneNote. They're just really brought to life if you've got the digital link. It's fantastic. Students are able to generate their own practice quizzes. So this is one of the really nice features of OneNote. This links in with forms. This is why I thought I'd cover forms in here as well. So I'll show you that in the demo, and that's usually one of the things that people find really, really quite useful because it allows students that level of independence. So we'll look at those in the demo. The OneNote feature I particularly like is the feedback stickers. So the ability to go and either use the customized ones, the way you can change the text, you know, good job, great reflection, things like that. People always think that the stickers are aimed at younger children, but not necessarily. We use them with our staff and they love them. So we put little stickers, you know, keep going, nearly there, excellent point, and things like that around their level of evaluations. So the feedback stickers are really great in OneNote. As I said, we've got the Immersive Reader for accessibility and improved literacy skills, and I'll demo that in a little bit. And you can also embed content into OneNote. So the Flipgrids that will show you, they can be embedded in a OneNote. So really, if you're using a class notebook, however that's set up, so you can have standalone class notebooks, you can have class notebooks set up through a VLE like Canvas, or you could have a class notebook set up in a team. So there's lots of different ways you can have that set up, but you can then bring content in from things like Flipgrid and Forms and YouTube and a whole range of other different things. And you can also use OneNote as activities. So you can actually create OneNote breakout rooms. And there's a little link here, which I'll post in the chat shortly, to an actual course or resource rather on the Microsoft Educator Centre that guides you through setting up your own breakout rooms in OneNote. If you don't know what a breakout room is, it's kind of a series of sections called rooms, and in those sections will be a page with a challenge on that the students need to complete, and when they complete the challenge they'll get an answer, and then that answer is the key to unlock the next room. And it's a way of kind of gamifying the learning and making it a little bit more fun. Our learner services team used that for an induction activity. Obviously they were quite remote with a lot of the learners, so they were able to use this as a sort of asynchronous task where they could send the link out and learners completed it in their own time. So it's actually a really good kind of tool to use OneNote for. And a whole list of other things that I won't go into in too much detail, but a lot of these tools will embed in OneNote, and it's just really simple. You just get the link or the share link and just paste it straight into OneNote and it just does it. There's no extra buttons you need to press, so it's really easy. So that was OneNote. Quick intro to Flipgrid then. Flipgrid is, well, first off, are there any questions about OneNote? We'll have a quick pause there just to see if there's any questions so far. Fab. I'll keep my eye on the chat, but I'll assume there are none and we'll carry on. So Flipgrid then is a free video platform, and it's got a real education focus to it. It's got controls that allow the educator to set up the topics and keep them safe so that only the students can access them. The students can access Flipgrid either on a web browser, on a PC, or via the mobile app on the phone, and it's available for Android and iOS. There are, if you have a really old phone, it won't install on it, but it will install on most of the ones in the last few years. So there can occasionally be, just as a heads up with Flipgrid, the occasional problem with the camera not working, and that's usually if they're using a web browser, they need to update the browser, or if they're on the phone, similar sort of thing, update the app or the browser. So that's one of the things, and they can create and share videos, but not only can they add their own videos, there's actually a level of engagement with peer-to-peer with Flipgrid. So students can leave feedback on other students' grids. They can now leave text comments as well. It used to just be video comments, but now you can actually leave a little text comment to say, yay, great video, I thought you raised some fantastic points there. So Flipgrid's just a fantastic way to engage learners. A lot of educators are a little bit worried about using Flipgrid because, oh, I've gone a bit too far, because of the video aspect. When I've used it with our tutors, quite often they've had mixed results from students to start off with. Some take the task seriously, some don't. It's kind of one of those things where you need to introduce it in the right way, I feel, but once the students have got how they can be creative and how it works for them, then that's where it's really the key with Flipgrid. And the educator has all kinds of tools like rubrics and the ability to leave feedback and grade the video of each student. And you can set the videos either to be automatically shared onto the topic or to actually be moderated so that you check them first and then decide whether to make them active on the grid. So you can actually use it as assessment as well. Some educators will set up individual topics for students as a kind of journal for that particular student, and then that's that topic is that student's journal. Others will have all students contributing onto one topic in one group. So there's a lot of different ways to use Flipgrid, and it is a really versatile tool. The main features, as I've said, are topics and groups. A group you could see as a class. So a group might be a particular level of maths, or it might even be the whole of maths. You might have all of maths or English in that particular group. I have groups set up for things CE cohorts and for our staff. So we have a tech partnership staff group that then when we're running challenges with the staff, we can set up topics in there. So it depends how you set it up, and you can set those to only be accessible to your school email domain, so the bit after the @ symbol, and then only email addresses with that particular domain can log in. Discovery library, which I'll show you briefly in this session, but there's so much in it that I can't possibly show you it all. There are thousands and thousands of educator created topics that they have shared and you can just go and use. So you'll probably find in Flipgrid, once you've signed up for it, that there's already a whole range of things that you can just go and try it with to start off with, without having to put too much effort in to start off with. This is one of the things when we try a new tool, is how much time is it going to take me to develop this. With OneNote, it can take a little bit of time because you sometimes need to structure things and put content in. But with Flipgrid, you can really get up and running in a few minutes. And so it is quite a nice little tool. Do more detailed things. We've used it for flip hunts and things like that with staff that have taken a bit of planning, but it's quite good. And then with the mixtapes, you can actually create collections of videos that have been submitted. So for our flip hunts, we created like the best 20 videos and we selected those and added them to a mixtape. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use the mixtapes. And your shorts videos, I do quite like to use those. They're good for instructional videos. So basically, when you're an educator, you're signed into Flipgrid, you can create a 10-minute video. And it's just a standalone video called a Flipgrid short that you then get an URL for, or a QR code, or you can share it to Teams or Google Classroom. And you can, and it up to 10 minutes, you get to use all the camera features of Flipgrid. So the things like screen recording, uploading photos, using the frames and emojis. And it's a really, really great tool to make quick and easy instructional help guide. And your activity shows things like your achievements on Flipgrid, so how many hours engagement of your students done on your topics and things like that. And the grid pals are locations of other Flipgrid users around the world who are happy to collaborate with you in your classroom. So there's a lot of different features in Flipgrid. I'm not going to be able to cover them all in the session. I'm going to mainly focus on the topics and the groups, but there is so much more in there. This is just a quick picture of the camera features. Again, I'm going to show you these hopefully in the session if it'll work. So this is kind of the thing, but you've got all of these features where you can upload your own video clip. You can do a screen recording in Flipgrid. So if you're just doing a demo of a particular application, you can do that. And you've got effects down here, boards to do a split screen, and there's a whole range of different features in there that you can use. And this is an example of what a video might look like with some random things put on it. So a picture, a bit of ink, you can put notes on there and things like that as well. And it is really, really quite easy to use once you know where the buttons are. And this is a giant image of all of the different ways that Flipgrid has been used across education. And it really is limitless. It's up to your creativity and things like that. People often say, why should I use Flipgrid? And I just think back to some of my learners who couldn't write a paragraph about a particular thing in a particularly coherent way. But if you ask them about it, they'd explain it really well. It's just some of our learners don't necessarily write in as a clearer manner as they would speak things. And so using Flipgrid allows learners that ability to be different and to differentiate to their needs. It's also got things like it will auto generate closed captions, and it's got Immersive Reader built into Flipgrid as well. So it's accessible and it's got so many uses. And finally, I will just move on to forms. I don't think we've got too much on this one to talk about. People probably have used forms before, but there's a whole range of different features in, this is Office 365 forms, I'll just clarify. Similar to Google Forms and all the other kind of surveying tools like that, but this is in Office 365. And you can quickly and very easily create a form or a quiz. Two different types. Quizzes come with feedback and points, whereas the forms are just like surveys. But that's really the main difference. It's the same buttons. You can kind of set up sections and branching, and there's a new update coming. I don't know if it's out yet or coming, where you'll be able to get a progress tracker through your form, through the sections. And the form settings actually allow you to customize things like a start date and an end date. So you can actually set a deadline for the form or the quiz when your students need to have completed it. And you can have a customized thank you message. So I sometimes use these for codes and things like that to get other tasks completed. And the share options with forms are just as you'd expect with Office 365. You can get a share link, a QR code, or you can get the embed code to pop that in other places as well. So there's so many options with forms, and we're obviously going to be looking at the quizzes. And one of the main advantages from my point of view with the quizzes is that you've got your responses straight away, so you can see at a glance what questions students might be struggling with. So forms are really quite useful. Okay, so there's a code there. If anyone is on the Microsoft Educator Centre, feel free to redeem that. I'll pop it in the code in a moment. Does anyone have any questions? We're going to do a demo shortly, so if there's any questions before I start, I'll let you ask, come off mute, or pop them in the chat. Excellent. I'll just get the links, so if you think of anything, do pop it in, but I'll just get the links and the code that I've shown you so far. Pop them in the chat. A little bit large, but okay. That's good. Right. Okay. Here's the code. Pop that in the chat. Let's get rid of that. That's it. Lovely. Okay. Code is in the chat. Right. Brilliant. So I'll assume there's no questions, and let's just go to a demo. So I'm going to give you some examples in OneNote, and we're going to have a look at the Flipgrid examples as well and the forms examples, but we'll probably for most of this stay in OneNote, apart from to jump out and show you how these are set up. So let's pop into my OneNote. So this is I think my maths quiz has expired. But I'll show you it in forms in a moment. So this is the OneNote examples that I've got set up. We'll start off with the maths ones. I'll start off with just some of the really basic things that you can actually do with OneNote, in case people are not familiar with OneNote. So these are actually PDF, and most teachers that I know have got PDFs and Word documents, so many of them that they've lost count. I had folders full of them. But you can actually use the insert menu in OneNote to insert a file printout from a PDF. And if you've got things like Word documents or PowerPoint, you can actually insert the files in OneNote as well. You can, if you've got the files in OneDrive, you can actually embed the PowerPoint straight into OneNote. If you just get the link and paste it into OneNote, it will just appear on the page. But this is an example of a PDF worksheet that I found on the internet, and you can basically just use either the printout straight within OneNote, and that will then just ask you to find a PDF. Or if you're actually on the PDF, you can then just use the print to OneNote feature if it's set up on your device. So that is device dependent on that. But if you're using OneNote for Windows 10, I think it's in the online version as well, you can insert a file printout. One of the things with these is they do move. So quite often it's advisable. One of the things you can do with the PDF printouts in OneNote is you can actually set them as a background, and then that's going to stop the picture from moving. tries to write on this, for example, they're not going to be able to write over it. Some are fine with just writing to the side, and you can actually move it over. But some students get a little bit confused because they try to actually write in the document and they can't because it's technically an image. But by setting it, if I go to this example, oh, is that not the example? I'll do it on that one, it's fine. So by setting the actual image to the background, if we do that one, you'll actually see now that I can click anywhere around on this particular image. So I can now write here on the document as I want to. So that's one of the advantages of setting your PDF printouts to the background. It also means if you're using a stylus and digital ink, the image won't move around. So otherwise, if you try and write on that, it can sometimes move it around. So that's a little tip with your PDF printouts. You've got this is just an example really of some of the things that you can do with OneNote. So you can kind of structure your lessons out into OneNote there, which can be quite useful to give the guidance for students. One of the things that we often get asked for with teams, our Canvas has the ability to set a page as the sort of welcome page, so when students get into the course there's instructions straight away. But Teams, as you probably know, has a little bit of an issue sometimes, especially if the general channel isn't being moderated, and students don't always necessarily know what the guidance is when they first get in the team. But putting content into a class notebook can help give them that guidance and structure. And you can put all of your links and your videos and things like that, but you can also link off to other pages within the OneNote or into Teams. So it's really a nice way of bringing all that content together into just one place for the student. One of the ones that we particularly like is this particular example. So maths in OneNote was sort of made to go together. Say this is in the OneNote for Windows 10 version. I don't think it's yet in the online version. I think it's planned to come out there. But in the OneNote for Windows 10 version, you can actually use a range of maths tools that you and the students can use. So these are some really basic examples that we've got on here, and you'll see up on the insert menu there's this maths option here. I think it's also on the draw option as well. If people don't know, you can actually use a ruler in OneNote as well. It's best with a touchscreen device because you can kind of move it like with the touchscreen. But I'm using my other screen at the moment, so I can't do that. But you've got actually as well a compass in there, so you can actually use that to measure angles as well in OneNote. So that's quite a useful little feature there. But let's have a look at these sums. So quite often you'll give students examples to do, and this one's a fairly basic one, so it's aiming at quite a low level here. But we've got the little maths button over here. You'll notice there's a drop down menu for it, and you have the ability to turn this on or off as a teacher. So really, if you're wanting students to do a test, some kind of assessment, you might want to turn this off for a period of time, because you don't want them being able to use it, and you'll see why in a moment. It's taking a little bit of time. There we go. So you can turn it off if you want to, but we're just going to use it on this for now. So we've got the sum 5 plus 8 equals question mark. Just so you know, in OneNote, when you actually do that sum, it will actually just work it out for you when you press space after the equal sign. So that will work with simple sums in OneNote anyway. But this is a particularly nice one. It will allow you to evaluate that calculation, and so that's going to give us our answer. We sort of knew that, but we can also see how that was solved. We've got the little Immersive Reader icon over there. I won't show you on this one, we'll find one with a few more instructions, but that's quite a nice addition because that gives that accessibility for your students. If we have a look at maybe round or something like that, that's going to give an example Obviously this one wasn't rounded, so really it doesn't matter. But one of the things we can do if we need these instructions on the page is we can just simply drag them over, and that's going to put that text onto the page. So that's going to allow the student to actually know how that was solved as well as just get the answer. So that's quite a nice little feature in OneNote. We'll have a look at Immersive Reader on this one. And so Immersive Reader will load kind of in a new window. You get a little back button up there, and this will outline the text. It depends on your settings as to how it loads. It does remember for the user. So if we click on text preferences there, you'll see you can have the spacing between words increased. You can have different fonts. You can change the background colour and things like that. So you can actually adjust this, or the learner can adjust this depending on how they need to access that content. You've got your ability to highlight syllables, all the adverbs and different things like that. I don't teach English, but there you go. It'll highlight them throughout the text, and that can be helpful if you're teaching those things. And then the reading preferences, if you've perhaps got learners that need to focus down on instructions one at a time, then they can actually use the line focus there, and that's just going to show 1, 3 or 5 lines at a time. So that's quite useful. And then the picture dictionary and the translate is really good for any students that perhaps speak a different language, and then they can actually access the content and work out what it is for themselves. So if we click on steps perhaps, you can see there it's given a little image. It doesn't have the picture dictionary for all words, but it has it for quite a few. I can't remember, it's something like 20 or so thousand words. But you can see there a little picture of a step, and you've got the listen as well for both of the words in the English and the French. So you're actually able to now listen to that word. I'm not sure I've got my audio on. It's not showing it on Immersive Reader, but I don't think you'll have heard that because I don't think I've got my audio on. But anyway, that would read it back to you. And you can do that through all the words in the document. So it will show you le nombre. Excuse my French. And so there you go, that's actually Immersive Reader. Down the bottom here, if the learner needs that read to them, they can actually choose the voice speed, so they can have it read really, really slow or really, really quickly, and they can choose a male or female voice. And then when they press the play, that's going to start playing. But that's going very, very fast. So that's actually just a really, really useful feature built straight into OneNote. And that's that particular example there. And then we move on to a slightly more complicated one here. This one, I'm just going to select that like that. Let me just pop that on so we've got that. And I click on my maths. Now, one of the things with my x's when I do these equations is it very rarely rather picks up my x's. So you can use this fix it tool, which will allow you to highlight a particular part of that calculation and actually choose the correct value from the options that come up. It's pretty good at working out what it should have been if it hasn't picked the right one the first time. You can press ink to maths, and that will change your digital ink into an equation or into text like that one up there. But I'm just going to leave this. And then we're going to select an action. So now, because this one's slightly more complicated, we've got a few different options. We can solve x. So that's going to tell us what the value of x is. And obviously we'd want to know how that was worked out. So we can literally find out what the steps are and pop that onto the page. So that's now going to show the student how that answer was got to. One of the main things that people love about this particular feature is the ability here to generate a practice quiz. So I'm not going to actually do one because I've got quite a lot of these already in my forms. I'll show you the steps, but when you click generate practice quiz, and the students can do this in their OneNote sections. So they can, if you've given them some calculations to do and they can't work them out, they can actually go and, change this and work out their own answers on their own questions. And generates them with AI. It's really clever. I'm not making much sense on how it does it, but it's because it's like magic. But you can choose how many questions from 1 to 20, and when you press generate quiz, what that will do is create a form for that user that looks like this over here. So we've got the practice maths quiz, and it's going to find different sums for them to do that are similar, and they can come along and answer these. Don't know if we get any of these right. Let's try. Click submit, and when we click view results, oh, I got 2 right. So it will tell them which ones they got right. So they obviously maybe need to go back, review the steps that this shows them, and then work out why they got the other ones wrong. So it's just a really good revision tool for maths using OneNote. So that's a few maths examples. Are there any questions so far on those before we have a little look at some English ones? Fab. I shall keep going, and if you do think of anything, please do pop it. Okay, so the English, again, we've got the same kind of examples here. So we've got some PDFs that have been printed to the background, but you'll also notice the actual page background in the OneNote here has got some ruled lines. So that's just simply on the view ribbon there in OneNote, and you can use the rule lines there. It allows you to pick some different types as well, so you can have a grid if you need a grid. But that can just be good. It doesn't put the text directly in the lines, so it's a little bit annoying, but it does give you kind of that feel that you're writing perhaps. And if you're using digital ink, then you could potentially try and write on the lines. So the English really is kind of looking at some of the different things you can do. This is an example here. One of the problems when you do use the print PDF feature is it inserts the PDF as an image. That isn't necessarily accessible. You can't use that with Immersive Reader. So one of the great features of OneNote is the ability to get the text from an image. So if we maybe choose, well, let's go with this one. Where's the thing gone? It's not giving me the option. It did this before. Yeah, it's not doing it now. It did do it previously, so I'll show you the example over here. So I'm not sure why it's not doing it on here. I'll find out why it's not doing it after the session, no doubt. But that's basically quite annoying. But what you can do if it's working is if I open up this other version of OneNote, I can show you it. There's different versions of OneNote, which does get a bit confusing. And OneNote 2016, I know it will work in, but then I know when I come back here, it will work again. But this is an example where you can actually get the text out of an image in OneNote. So if you've got an image like this with lots and lots of text that a learner's perhaps struggling to read from, you can actually normally export the text out of that image. So I'm just going to go and open up this particular OneNote if I've got that open. There we go. And let's pop that over there. So this is OneNote 2016, so it's the old version of OneNote. I don't actually use this one that much anymore because the other one has all the right features. But you can actually, I know it will work on this one. There we go. Make text in image searchable. And you can actually get the text out of it somehow, but it doesn't seem to be coming up for me at the minute. I know you can because I've actually.
I have to admit that a year or so ago I had a partially sighted student, yeah, and I used this OneNote feature quite a lot, and then all of a sudden it stopped working for me.
It's up there, look, but it's greyed out, so I'm not quite. Yeah, thank you, Tracy, for confirming it does work.
Yeah, yeah.
It actually does work. You can see it on the page there, but for some reason today it's just not one. I can see it's there, just not working for some reason today. It should work. So I don't know if there's a problem with OneNote. There always seems to be some kind of problem when I do a demo. I know last time we did this session, it wouldn't work in Windows 10, and I did it in the 2016 version and it worked. Then I went back to Windows 10 and it worked in there. So little bit confused with the inconsistencies there, but it should work. There shouldn't be any problem with doing that. It just isn't doing it today for me. Let me see if I can get any of it out. It's not. I'm determined that's my only problem. I'll move on, otherwise we'll spend the whole demo watching me do that. It should work, but it's just not today. And the forms, obviously, we'll take a look at how these are set up. I'm going to jump over to those other applications in a second. And the quizzes can really easily be embedded in OneNote as well. As you saw with the maths examples, this is actually a homophones quiz, if we can zoom in a bit, just so you can see that. And all I really did for that was just copy the share link and paste it into OneNote, and it just embeds it. You don't have to do anything special. And this is just a really quick quiz. I posted it in the chat last time, but it took a bit longer to do than I anticipated. So I might post it in a moment, the share link for it. You can have a little play on it. But it's got the progress down the bottom there, so you can see that you're on page 1 of 3, and it's now, because it's a text-based answer, it has to be a very specific answer. And we had this last week in the session, was if you enter this on a phone, sometimes a phone will automatically put a space after the word. If it puts a space after the word, it will be marked as wrong. And so it is a little bit strict on the spelling and things like that, but it has to be. But it also has a maths feature in forms quizzes as well, so that can be quite useful for your maths answers. But we'll have a look at how that form is set up in a second. And then we've got this other one here as well, which was quite a large quiz that I did on. It was basically a GCSE English language paper that I got off the internet, obviously, and I just copied out the reading into section subtitles. So you read the text, which gives them the advantage of having access to Immersive Reader, and then obviously they've got the questions that they can answer and things like that. Because this one is a long text answer, this one requires reviewing by the teacher. So as you'll see on here, because I've already completed this, the feedback from the teacher after they've reviewed it is shown on here. So it depends on how you set up your quizzes as to what form of assessment you're creating there. So here we are, is the form that we were just looking at. This is the homophones, if I'm saying that right. And this is the analysis that you can see from the last run of this quiz. So you can see that people were getting some of them right, they were getting them really right. Maybe the focus was there at the start of the quiz, you know, so we've got quite a good focus at the start. And I think towards the end, maybe we started to sort of wane a little bit, or perhaps people just didn't know their where's theirs very well. But it's quite an interesting way of just getting that response. It was an anonymous link, so we don't track the student that actually got the responses, but it allows you to get a kind of snapshot. And these can be really useful to run at the start of something, and then at the end, you know, exactly the same quiz. You don't need to do any more work. You just literally, you know, create it, give them it once, then give them it again, and hopefully the second time you give them the actual quiz, the marks should improve. And that's your kind of analysis showing that you know, they've learned something from the lessons. You're able to export these in Excel, as you'd expect. And the forms, really, you've got a whole range of different features. Oh, just decided to refresh on me. If we click into a question, you'll see here, look, we've got the correct answer set down the bottom there. We've got the that you've put in and whether it's a required question or not. It's quite straightforward. If you've got perhaps a video clip or something that you want them to watch and then maybe analyse that or put the thoughts into a text-based question, you can actually use this little icon here on each question to add in either an image or a video. So that can be another great way of adding to those questions. And if we just simply go to the bottom, I won't create another one exactly, but if you go to add new there, these are the different things that you can add into your forms or quizzes. So you've got your multiple choice, your text, ratings, dates, rankings like file uploads doesn't work if it's a public form, only works internally, and then your net promoter scores and your sections, which are useful for breaking up a large quiz or form like this one. So that's really how your forms are set up, and they are as simple as when you go to Office 365 on the waffle, you should see forms on your list of all apps. Let's go the full way if it's going to do it for me. It's been a bit slow. Here we go. And you should see forms on there. So when you go to forms, you'll get a little button like that, and you can actually choose a new form or a new quiz. Obviously, a new quiz is the one with points. A form is useful for a survey. So that's your forms, basically the same. I'll just quickly show you this one because this one has branching set up on it. This is the one that didn't work because the date had expired. This was set up as kind of like a, imagine you had a competition to do. The students need to complete all of the questions and get them right to be entered into the prize draw. So we're kind of gamifying learning again. And the branching set up on this form so that if a learner gets any question wrong, they go to the end of the quiz. It gives them a commiserations message. Try again to see if they can be entered into the prize draw. You could use this in all sorts of different ways, but the key with this one, obviously you can see I've put quite a lot of feedback into this particular quiz. So the feedback can actually help the student learn even when they're getting things wrong. And then on the 3 dots for each question, you can access the branching menu. And this is how you set up this complicated, get everything right thing. So you'll see for the correct answer, we go to the next question. For everything else, we go to the final section 5, better luck next time. And that is exactly the same throughout. We just go all the way down and they're all set up so that they go to the right next question. And then they put the name in at the end, give the quiz a rating. Even if they don't get it right, they can still rate the quiz, and that will then track that all on the spreadsheet in the responses. So a really good way of using your forms. Now the Flipgrids, if there's any questions, do stop me. I'll keep going because there's quite a lot to show and I get excited by it all. But the Flipgrids really are, there's so many ways you can use them. So I'm really only going to cover on a couple. I created this little group called Maths and English Topics for this session, and I got these topics all set up in about 5-10 minutes. And I did that using the Discovery Library, which lets you just go and search for other topics. If you don't know what Flipgrid looks like and what a Flipgrid with some content on might look like, if we just nip back to let me see which one I can show. I think the PGC one. Oh no, we'll do that one will be fine. So a topic, groups look like this, but then a topic would actually look like this. So this is a topic where we set up an activity for staff to take part in at Christmas last year. To go around campus, find loads of props and leave videos on the grid to show what they've done. So you'll see there's quite a few videos and the people were leaving the videos and people were commenting on the videos. So it's it's a good tool for getting that engagement. I mentioned shorts earlier and how you can record your own little videos. So I actually have done a couple for the EdTech demo team, which would be this one here, and I think I posted that one in there. But this one I did last week for our PGCE cohort, showing them how they can use Flipgrid for poster presentation. So I'll just play it really, really quick so you get a feel, because at the end I show how to use the camera. But I'll just play that.
Hello and welcome to this introduction in using Flipgrid Shorts, specifically to get your AR QR code so you can put this on your poster presentations. So this is a little example of option 1 where you can use the camera features in Flipgrid and talk over them. So this is the split screen option. I can make that as wide or as narrow as I want, so we'll leave that like that. And I can also, if I want to, I can save that for me into my Flipgrid folder. So let me go find that. And we can now me with Windows 10 Photos app.
There we go. Skip to there.
The final option is to upload a video clip. So here's a compilation I made with Windows 10 Photos app of some of the fun things we've done with Flipgrid. Also got the ability to put the board screen set up, and then you can start your recording like that. And that's basically it. You've got a whole range of different options. I'm sure I don't need to show you all of them. You can play around with them. Here's the opportunity where you can upload your own photo, and you've also got the ability to put the board on, as I showed you a few moments ago. So now we can actually have that like that. Let's have me there like that. And now we've got a really cute little image frame that we can use to record our video.
So that's kind of like an example of a Flipgrid short, so I won't play the rest of it. You can kind of see how the camera works there. Very simple interface. The 3 dots brings up your options, so you can upload clips and things like that, and your effects, let you add the different effects onto the camera. It's ever so simple once you actually get over the initial barrier of it being a video. And you'll see down the bottom here all the different options for how you can share this now. So obviously you've got the simplest with your link, but you've also got your QR code. So you can actually, this is a really, really cool feature. If you have the Flipgrid app and you scan that QR code, it will actually put your video in augmented reality. So it'll start playing your video in the real space. You can resize it and shrink it, move around it a little bit. And it is just a really nice feature, which is why we kind of promoted it to our PGCE cohort, because they use it in their poster presentations. You've got your embed options, you share to Teams, share to Google Classroom, and all sorts of other things like that. So that's your Flipgrid Shorts. And your discovery library. So how I got my maths and English topics, because I'm not a maths or English teacher, I teach IT. So I was sort of a bit stuck, you know, imagine I've got to do a cover lesson, what's the topic, check the scheme of work, and oh look, we're doing perimeter and area check. Right, I'll go and I'll find an activity that they can do, and then just give that and share that to the students. So these topics are already created by other educators. Some won't fit for your students, but you can have a look through them. They're all on the discovery menu up at the top. And there's often featured ones that are, you know, popular on the day, or ones by partners of Flipgrid. But further down the bottom, there we go. We've got 29,688 topics to choose from. Obviously, they won't all fit you, your learners, and your subject, but you can actually pick the different age groups. So let's say if we're doing 14 to 18, and let's pick some. Let's go language arts. I think language arts is English. It doesn't say English on there, so we'll go like that. It is a little bit American with some of the topics because it's used a lot in America, so you know you might need to check the language, check the topics. But let's have a look at, I don't know, a bit hit and miss. Some of them are not that great. So let's have a look at poetry out loud. You can get a feel for how well they're being received by how often they've been used. So like there, that one's been used 4 times and 3 times. So let's have a look at one of them then. So that will give you the instructions that the person has set up for that particular topic, and it gives you any other information that you need. If you wanted to use that straight away, you can just add that topic, and that's going to let you add it to a group or add it as an individual topic. So we're going to add it into our maths and English. Let's add that there. And now that's going to take us into edit topic. In case we just wanted to can't add that much in there, so I'll add that in here. Let's do it in there. I forget I'm limited by characters on Flipgrid. But there we go. So you can update your own instructions, change your language over. That's important because that's how your closed captions will be generated. So that's quite important there. If you wanted to give your students a different length of time, then you can. And if you wanted to moderate that particular topic so that the videos need to be viewed by you beforehand, then you can as well. So it's a really, really nice little thing. You can, if you want, change that image at the start. You could put a video of yourself explaining the topic. There's a whole range of different things you could add in there. You can add further topic attachments if you wanted to. So that could be like a sway. You might even put a form in there as well. So if they need to do a quiz too, you could attach that to the Flipgrid. And then you've got the different settings and the controls for what features are available on that topic. So is it active? Has it got a close date? Do you want notifications when a new video is left? I will warn you, if you're using a Flipgrid with hundreds of students, that's probably not so wise. I had mine on and I'd soon turned it off. But if you've only got a few students in your class, you might want to know. But you can also set a weekly digest as well, so it'll come through daily or weekly rather than every single video. And you can choose the options for whether learners can like a video, like other students' videos, whether they can edit the videos, whether they're allowed to add their own attachments. So it's got a load of customization. And then we've got the rubrics at the bottom. So you can add your own criteria. You can choose your own criteria if you've already got them set up, or you can add your own there. And this is just a really good way, if you look at how they're set up, of letting the students know what you're looking for and giving them a score and giving them that positive praise for what they've done. And I, with Flipgrid, always like to have something on for creativity, because sometimes learners leave videos that are just outside of the box and make you go, wow, they really understood that, but in a really amazing way. And so Flipgrid can really unlock that with your learners. So we click update topic, and now that topic that I just got from the Discovery Library is ready to go. I can just share that. If I'm in a class, I can just pull that up. Learners can scan it straight away. If I've got a VLE or Teams or OneNote even, I can actually copy that. Let's pop into OneNote. Let's go and create a new page. Let's put there and just paste that link if it's going to do it. There we go. And that now is embedded in the OneNote, ready for learners to use. So if you're using Class Notebook and that's set up in your content library, you could actually distribute that out to your student sections, or just leave them instructions to go and get a copy themselves. But that's kind of really how you can use all of these different tools in combination, really, to aid maths and English delivery. Are there any questions anyone's got?
I think it'll just be a case of having a go and trying it out and see how it works. And then getting the learners on board really with it.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it depends which one you. Yeah, it's totally is, Tracy. It's right. It depends which one you choose. Forms is a quick win in my mind, because no matter what platform you're using, you can give them a link, you can embed it, so you can get that forms assessment being used fairly easily. It's usually when we have staff come to level up, it's one of the tools we'll pick. If the staff member is perhaps not so digitally confident, or maybe teaches learners that aren't, we'd usually start with quizzes in forms. Our plumbing team, for example, use quizzes in forms and maths at Grimsby. They've set up some sort of revision quizzes, and they put them on QR codes in corridors and on displays. So if learners are waiting for classes in the maths area, they can scan the QR codes. I would like to know how many have done so, but I know with the plumbing department, they use them and they attach videos. And they do sways with forms embedded, so it's got like instructions for how to use bits of kit safely. There's lots of ways you can incorporate them. But I think yeah, with OneNote, it is quite a big thing to implement, and that does take time to get your learners up to speed and get them on it. Yeah. Any other questions? Anything anyone would like to see, or any thoughts?
I think we've just been chucked so much these last few months. We're just overloaded.
Yeah. It is a bit like that, and I always say to teachers, if you've got something that works already, maybe keep using it, and just see how you can improve it. If you haven't got anything already, then look for something and try it, and if it works, stick with it. So it is really about not going out and getting everything, because that doesn't achieve anything really. The tools need to be selected depending on what you need and whether that fits. Flipgrid's great for asynchronous learning, so if you don't have the learners necessarily, if they can't get on lessons online on certain times and things like that, then you can use Flipgrid and OneNote as a more blended approach so that they can access the learning when they need. Rather than like if you're doing Teams lessons and it's all online and some learners can't necessarily access it. And then in terms of our hours, we've got quite a sort of deprived set of students, and we gave every single laptop out in the building during lockdown to students, and there were still some that were, you know, computer sharing at home with mum and dad and numerous others. So it is quite a, you know, a challenge to pick the right tools that work. But I think it's just about trying them and then finding what does work. But it's good. Fantastic.
Ooh, don't get me wrong, I love trying new things.
Oh, I'm terrible with the staff. I'm always trying new things on them. So it's like, oh, come and try this. And then they're like, are you trying to show us this? And I'm like, no, I just need someone to test it with. But things like Flipgrid has been used with the staff. We try and get staff engaged with the tool first, and then the student, hopefully they'll take that away and use it with the students. So that's our approach. Get the staff inspired to use Flipgrid, and then they'll use it with the students. We do get a mixed response. One tutor used our 14-16 academy, and like I say, 50% of the group did the task and 50% of the group thought it was TikTok. So we had a bit of a laugh about that. He was quite disappointed that they'd not completed the task. And I sort of said, well, look at the positives in what was achieved, and that they did actually get onto the platform. So although they didn't complete your actual task that you needed them to do, they did get on Flipgrid and they did leave a video. And it was quite creative in a couple of them. So they played with the tools in the camera, but not necessarily what the teacher needed to achieve. But it's just sometimes the way it's approached. And I find with Flipgrid, if you do some fun activities first, rather than trying to achieve a learning goal with Flipgrid to start off with, you know, things like introduce yourself and what's your favourite movie or something like that. It makes it a little bit more fun. It makes them able to express themselves, and they might then engage with actual learning activities after that. Our early years have been using OneNote and Forms and Sway and things like that for years now, and the learners just love it because they get it all on their phones. So they're basically on mobiles all day. But it's good. Excellent. Well, I will stop the recording because we've reached our time.